Okay, Friday morning, I'm actually working on some teachings. I'll do a few comments. I actually hesitated because I am doing work, and today I kind of wanted to do some building. I got work to do. So I'll see how many. A few things we want to note. I forgot to mention, I'm trying to mention news things. By the way, Kohler Times, if you ever watch these, I try to pick up the Kohler Times the last 3 days. And the places, Stripes stores and all, they're sold out. And I don't get the daily delivery. I pay a lot more by getting it every day, but I do like to read the Kohler Times, so I have not been able to get it. Make sure you give me a few notes I'll do. I did not make any mention on the other big news thing from Texas this past week, which was Senate Bill 4, which is the governor signed it into law, Governor Abbott. They come here. Governor Abbott was here maybe a few months ago, and they like Corpus Christi, actually, because it's pretty. But just about every police chief and every police department in Texas pretty much does not like that law. Now, the law, SB 4, Senate Bill 4, that was passed into law, basically gives local law enforcement, cops, the ability to ask people if they are a legal resident, okay? The whole immigration, green card, and everything else. And the reason most police chiefs oppose it, I know the San Antonio police chief, also Chief Markle of CCPD, I know that they oppose it. And why do they oppose it? And this is just from me knowing that, okay, I always use fire department examples. And if you put something extra like on the fire department, because cities, for cops and police, when they do staffing, and we always try to get more staffing. I think the Kingsville Fire Department still probably has 30 guys, but you fight every year with the commissioners and, fighting in contract negotiation. And no department, whether it's fire or police, no department wants to have an extra thing added to them. And for the most part, the police departments, they are swamped, okay? They are swamped, just honestly, with dealing with crime, especially drug problems. And for them to have maybe an extra thing on the plate that, okay, when we stop somebody, even if it's for a ticket, even if it's for driving, now they're not required to ask, I don't believe, but they could ask, what's your residency, what's your status? And there's a lot of problems with that only because that's a federal law, and Texas just passed it. Now it's Paxton, the Attorney General, already sued right off the bat Austin. Austin is, look, they did the same thing. Austin is a state capital, and over the years, Austin did a lot of politics. They got people that in Congress, Tom DeLay and others, because they're in the District of Austin, and then they brought them into local courts, charging them with money laundering on campaign things. Look, Austin is a liberal city, and they use the law in a political way, very unjustly. They did that. Now, Austin and the lady sheriff in Austin who publicly said, we are not going to, in the past she said, we're not going to follow the new law where our law enforcement deputies and cops and all have to or could ask for paperwork. Are you a legal resident? Second, obviously that law would be more discriminatory towards Hispanic people than to white people, okay? Simply because you're going to think, well, did they come from Mexico? And are they? So that's the big story, and the cops, for the most part, do not want to mess with that. Because if there's a real crime like a shooting or a stabbing, they want the local community to work with them. And so you might actually have illegal immigrants that are not committing other crimes besides being an illegal immigrant. And if something happens in the neighborhood, the cops want to be able to ask, the people in the neighborhood, did you see what happened? And the local law enforcement believe this is going to be a hindrance. It's going to increase crime because they're going to get less people to cooperate out of fear that the local cops in any city across Texas might do something, okay? Second thing, this is for CCPD. You know, God's law. I had one of my friends, I won't give his name, but he was sitting in front of Bell's about 2 weeks ago. And one of the law enforcement, I think the name is Crocker. I don't know if I know Crocker. Me and my wife went to, like in a restaurant, where we were, and some officers pulled up, you know, getting off their bikes. So they were in the car, cop car, but they had the bikes in the back. I think that one of them was Crocker. I don't know Crocker. He seems to be like a Tommy Nichols, from what I hear. Meaning he makes statements to the homeless guys, like things that you're not supposed to say. So for Mr. Crocker, I believe he's a young cop, he's got the glasses, the whole macho image. But he saw one of my homeless friends about 2 weeks ago sitting legally in front of Bell's, which is Corpus Christi, Texas, Flower Bluff, Mr. Justice Department. What do you mean, John? And you made statements to my friend, like, what are you doing out here? And he said, I'm waiting for my fiance, my future wife. She's inside shopping. And this officer just did not believe it. Oh, really? You know, well, then when the fiance actually did come out, it wasn't Bell's, it was the store where you buy the food, but it's right here in Flower Bluff. But Bell's is there, but they were in the food store. She's buying noodles or macaroni. And look, the story's been recounted to me by multiple sources. So when the girl came out with the bag of food, that officer was mad and made comments. Now, you say, John, but you didn't get us on recording. Let me say something. This is a recording device, legal recording device. Most of my friends also have what you're looking at, which is a phone, which also records voice, legally. And it's perfectly legal for Little Corpus Christi Outreach Ministry, for my friends who actually have these recording devices, to have them on in their pockets and on their person all the time. That's why you see them always charging up phones. And there just might be instances where we caught all that on recording devices. Oh, you mean I might be in trouble, John? I'm an officer. What would you do with those? Look, they might just be going to the Justice Department. Now, I don't know what sessions they might. You say, why are you putting us on notice? Let me say, you know, Scripture talks about the law of God. Just from all the years I've been around, I know some that break, some in law enforcement that regularly, routinely break law. And you say, but yes, John, but other people in society, yes, but that's not the court that we deal with, okay? I believe that there's such corruption within this, that way is where our county seat is. I believe there's corruption. I believe it's possible that they murdered a judge here, which made national news a year ago now. Judge Tom Greenwell, murdered, shot in his court, which they said it was a suicide and there was no... I believe there's corruption. So now, even the simplest thing is maybe we have some recordings from local PD because they just mouthed off and maybe even made threats where we would have recorded, okay? I wanted to mention SB 4. I wanted Senate Bill 4 because I think it's put a lot of pressure on even legal Hispanic people, because more than likely white people are not going to be asked for that. The other question is how many people carry around their birth certificate, you know? I mean, how are they going to prove it? I didn't read everything on it. So, in the court of God, in the law of God, there's some older officers that are dating young girls. Well, John, it's legal because they're 20, and maybe you're 40. Are you having sex with those girls? Well, that's not illegal. Look, in the law of God, it's illegal. It's no different than adultery. You say, but some of your friends, well, we're not dealing with that. See, we're dealing with, I actually just prayed for the sister. You say, well, I'll never be accountable for those crimes and sins. Surely the light of God sees everything. Surely the light of God. Just because Skirka is very corrupt in many of the things, in many of the cases, just because he's out, there were many in that little cobble of... I read an article the other day. I'll try and get the paper today in the last few days. But it talked about one of the judges that recently got in last year, Guy Williams, but he seems to be more independent than the other group. And you have Sandra Watts, you have a few politicos, like 8 or 9 of them reading these, and they made a certain decision. They said, we're going to fire 2 roving court reporters. By law, you have to have the court reporters that do in every courtroom, right? So they said they were losing too many of them because the salaries are too low. And they had so many roving court reporters, not regular full-duty ones. And I think they had 4, and they made a decision. They're going to eliminate 2 of the roving court reporters and then raise the salaries on the 2 remaining ones a lot, actually, like $60,000, $70,000 a year. That's a lot. Cops, I think, in firemen maybe don't even make that. Maybe now they do. But Guy Williams, he's kind of been independent, and he disagreed publicly. He said, you all making that decision, you know, without, and I have a say. Now finally, I think he conceded. But that group, I don't see. You said those other people, John, maybe they are just, they knew about corruption. They knew about Hannah Overton, after all that stuff, finally was declared not guilty by a just district attorney by the name of Mark Gonzalez. But all the Mr. Skirka sitting, whatever he's doing now with his life, say, oh, well, maybe his life is not it. What about the possible murder of Carlos de Luna, which was the famous death penalty case that came right out of this city? And books were written on how there was false testimony. That's considered murder if he was the wrong man. These other cases. Say if I actually had an interview with some people that knew the lady in Bishop, the case I mentioned, who she accused a home carpenter out of Kingsville of rape. And the story sounded fake. And I mentioned that case before. But then when they convicted him, say if I have friends in Bishop. Actually, I was talking yesterday with another one right in Kingsville, but that's the Kingsville. Say if I knew somebody that knew that woman, just on my own independent investigation. And the other person said, oh, she was mad because he didn't want to sleep with her. And say if the other people that know her, the lady who made that accusation, which your whole court, if it's true that was, you're under judgment for that. False testimony, lying, perjury, which did go on. How sure in this particular case, I don't know. And then say if we spoke to that other person who knows the other person, and say if the other person actually said, they knew I lied. But that was Skirka's thing. He was still in, I believe. So, those of you, Miss Sandra Watts, and all of you that seem to be so up on lawns and justice, say if even this last week, by law, I sent some of those recordings of local officers saying things they should not have said, and those are not public on my site, but those are also, because by law, every one of my homeless friends, by law, has the right to have a recording phone on them. And they're not approaching officers, but every now and then officers approach them. And by law, you approach somebody and they themselves have a recording device. So I just figured I'd put that out. I do realize some of my friends know I speak on these issues. And so sometimes, not that they lie, sometimes another friend of mine mentioned something just 3 days ago. He sees Chief Markle. He knows Chief Markle. Talks to him. But I won't say my friend's name or what he said. That happened 2 weeks ago. But what did happen actually is a violation of city code. Actually is something that other people, my friend Brother Ray, I just saw Church Without Walls, Brother Ray, a friend of mine, street preacher for many years here in Florida. He just posted on Facebook, people have been reporting him to code enforcement, and they're going out and they're checking, and a lot of stuff that happens. But you know, I always found it funny that if you are a cop, there's no code enforcement. The cops run code enforcement. There's so many houses here in Flower Bluff, rentals that are so many code violations, everybody, but they're cops, and they never would enforce junk cars, falling apart, porches falling apart, roofs falling. But those are owned by cops. That's why those of you in the Bluff look at a lot of these rentals owned by cops. And so they don't do code enforcement on themselves. So, this is just number one. I figured I'd share. I did want to comment. I did not check the news. But yes, there should be a higher standard among CCPD. And if one of my friend's fiance is shopping and there's no laws being broken, you have no cause even to approach them. I think his name is, could get it wrong, Crocker maybe. But I've seen him, you know, just a never had interaction with him. He seems like a gung-ho, you know, with the glasses. People, when I used to work at the firehouse, that we all knew of, these guys. All right. So number one.